I'd like to call this meeting of the West South Susquehanna School Board to order. Ms. Steele, would you please lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Sarah, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Carr.
Here.
Mr. Burns.
Present.
Mr. Becker.
Here.
Ms. Kaiser.
Here.
Mr. Keller.
Here.
Ms. Lee.
Here.
Ms. Deal.
Here.
Mr. Sikich.
Present.
President Lee.
Here. Proper notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the open meeting laws of the state of Wisconsin. Do you have any modifications to the agenda this evening?
There are no modifications.
All right, we're going to move right into our school showcase this evening with the DLVA. So board, if we move to our designated seats over here, and I'd like to have whoever's coming up from DLVA to come on up.
Thank you.
Good. I'm gonna get started though. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to be in front of you once again. I always appreciate having the time to know all of you a little better. So before I get into the project that we did, I'm going to talk a little bit about our theory of action and how it connects to the project that we did. So like, oh yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
You can pick the mic up.
Brandon said it's fine. Okay, my name is Dr. Smith and I'm here for Deeper Learning Virtual Academy. Thanks for reminding me. Feel a little nervous being up here, so thank you. So talking about my theory of action, the same end as everyone else's, right? That we see all of our students make aggressive growth or typical growth depending where they're at, and that all of our students have a 3 or higher value added on their state report card. And this activity or like this endeavor that we've been taking part of came at a really opportune time for us because we were at the beginning of kind of a restructuring and an evaluation of what we were doing and an evaluation of our data. So we decided to start. It's really important that we think about the partnerships between our staffs and our families because we want them to engage more with their teachers. We want to engage them to engage more with all the staff, and we want them to engage more with their coursework. Another thing was we needed to increase the number of students who were testing. So we made a very intentional focus on that to get more students tested because without that data, we weren't able to analyze it. We weren't able to identify the gaps. We weren't able to create better instruction for the students. And then in addition to that, we have increased our communication efforts and it's become very strategic and very well documented. And that communication has opened up like those relationships that we were looking for. And we have seen data to support that our testing numbers have gone up and that we have more kids completing classes and more kids on track to graduate in 4 years. So really feel like the plans we made are working. And so in general, we just wanted the community, our school community to be more educated on how our platform works, our families to be more educated in how the platform works, and our teachers even to identify gaps in the platform and gaps in the instruction to help support the students. And that kind of leads me into our project then, because our project was from our in-person event. So we are trying to deepen the partnership between our staffs and our families. We want to engage them. So we do offer in-person events right now twice a year. And I don't know, maybe that will increase at one point, but for now it's twice a year. And today we're going to showcase one of the projects that came from that first in-person event this year. So in December, we had the in-person event and all of the students who came there, their task was to create an advertisement to attract students and families to enroll at DLVA. We have one of our students from a team, her name is Jocelyn St. John, and she is going to do a little presenting on the project, and then she's going to show you her project. So, yep, so you can go ahead and start with your items.
Do I just start speaking? Hi. My name is Tina. I'm in 8th grade and I go to Deeper Learning Virtual Academy. My friends Bryson and Miles worked on this too.
And then she's going to describe the project.
We made a commercial promoting the school at an in-person event. It took 2 days for me and my classmates to make it. Now let's play the ad that we recorded. We put Spanish subtitles in there too. We use Google Translator for them.
Great, you're doing great.
You get called on a lot. Plus, I like that you can stay home in your pajamas all day and you still got a class.
She's of course just being silly. She dresses totally in formal wear every single day.
I made a commercial audio and I had to make the audio and visual work together. Plus, I had to work with new people and that made the project even better.
Lovely. Yep, last one.
Recording. It was hard at first, but it got easier the more I practiced my lines. It bothers me when I don't do something perfect right away, but then I practice and did retakes with the audio and got it where I wanted it to be. Frustrated at first, but then I felt relieved when I was happy with my performance. Everything was done.
Good job. Okay. Almost. So Jocelyn's ready to hear any like questions or feedback.
Well, I want to attend out of the pre-commercial.
Okay, go ahead. Okay.
Yeah.
How, what were the biggest difficulties since you're all remote? Since you had in person?
We were in person that day. Yeah, it was our in-person, it's our in-person event. Sorry.
Fine.
I didn't mean to answer.
You could have.
Okay, thank you. So, we were in person. So we do 2-day, we've done 3-day before. Lately, we've been doing 2-day twice a year in-person events. So while we've changed a lot of what we do, like curriculum wise or the way we deliver, we still have maintained that component. So there still is like a project component built into our work.
Jocelyn, what's your favorite state but DLVA?
Just, hey, quit that noise.
And effective. Teachers,
Yeah.
that's awesome to hear.
Jess, I just want to say, I think you did an excellent job. So are you feeling more confident now that you were the superintendent?
Yes.
Because I think you did great.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much.
Right.
Are we okay to move on? Just making sure we're good moving forward.
Are you reloading? Is you reloading?
All right. Well, thank you again for the students and staff and families from the DLVA to come and give us a update on what's going on there. It's always good to hear from what's going on in our schools. We can't always be in there ourselves to see it. So thank you so much for them. One more round of applause. And we'll move on to the superintendent's report.
Good evening. So we have several updates tonight as well as recognition. So it's going to be bear with me. Let me just say it that way. Bear with me. We want to get through this. WIA updates policy on transgender athlete participation in athletics. WIA Board of Control has updated its policy regarding student athlete eligibility, affirming compliance with federal directives that only females at birth can participate in girls' competitions. The decision, in consultation with legal counsel, is similar to recent actions by the National Collegiate Athletic Association, the NCAA. Kinzer and Underly advanced to state superintendent general election. Wisconsin voters participated in the state superintendent of public instruction primary election with incumbent Dr. Jill Underly and former special education teacher Brittany Kinzer advancing to the general election on April 1st. The April 1st general election is expected to see high turnout as it will also feature a high profile Supreme Court election. The election in February saw low turnout compared to previous elections. Our district recognitions. First, I'm going to bring up Katie Roca. Is she here? Okay. And we're going to recognize Central High School state qualifying cheerleading team. Would you please come on up and join Katie up here? Give them a hand.
I'm gonna let Taylor, our coach, talk about kind of like our journey through here. This is very monumental for West Allis Central. So she has some things that she wants to say just kind of about cheer in general and then kind of where we're at. So Taylor, you want to come to the microphone? Yes.
Thank you. It won't take that long. I'm a big slideshow person. I can share this with whoever wants it after, but this is the rise of WAC Cheer. So we've been growing this program since 2001. So these girls right here have been through it from the start. So we have these two who started as freshmen and these guys who just joined us this year, and they just came right in. So cheerleading is a sport. You can Google it. It's not just how it was in the 90s where we're just cheering on the sidelines. These are real athletes. They have athleticism, strength. It is now an Olympic sport. So this is so serious, and it's amazing that this program grew in just 3 years from just being on the sidelines to making it to state. We defeated programs that have been going for 20 plus years, and we took over in just 3 years. Same with Nathan Hale. They are brand new and they took over in just 3 years. So this is huge for West Allis. Some of our biggest struggles in the past 3 years since I took over is space. Finding space and consistent time. We are constantly pushed to the back burner for other sports, and all sports are important, but it would be nice if we could have some sort of consistent practice space. We have girls who are trying to work and they can't work because we don't have a consistent schedule. And sometimes it changes the week of. We're like, hey guys, I'm really sorry we got bumped to 7:30 p.m. We got bumped to 8 p.m. and we have no control over it. And it's really hard because these girls are so hardworking. And we've had to have girls quit the program because the schedules were so crazy. They had little siblings to take care of. All of these girls work so hard. They are on honors. They're in other clubs. They're so involved with the school. And to just see us pushed to the back burner is really just kind of sad. But despite all that, they still made it to state. They still did it, which is truly, truly amazing. So I'm just really proud of these girls. So what I ask from everyone, and thank you guys for listening, is we just need your support. We just need consistent practice space. And another thing is we just need proper equipment. Right now we're just practicing on mats that we got donated from another school. I have coaching connections from other schools and they did donate us mats for free. But West Allis Central currently does not have mats, proper cheerleading mats. And we asked for it a few years ago. The old athletic director bought us more wrestling mats. So it just really hard to not be listened to. And shout out to Katie Rucka. She stepped in and she has been working really hard to drive up women's sports. So I really appreciate her. And I know we're on the road to get mats. She created some awesome flyers. So thank you guys all for listening. And if anyone wants a copy of my presentation or has any questions, we'd really appreciate it. But shout out to these amazing girls. I hope that was fast enough. I'll try to make it like as fast as possible. Did you need a picture of them? Oh, everyone did. Oh, well. Thanks for letting me do that last minute. You know I'm a nerd like that.
I know you're a nerd like that.
But you all forward. And then don't take my window. All right, ready?
1, 2, 3. Perfect.
All right, stay loose forward, stay loose.
I'm ready.
State qualifiers for wrestling. Want to go ahead?
Yep.
All right.
So unfortunately, none of our wrestlers were able to come, sadly, but we did have 4 wrestlers qualify for state. 2 of them were able to, I think 2 of them won their weight class at sectionals, and so they made it in that way, which is really exciting, not just to be qualified, but to win your weight class. So we had Deuce Sharp, Amadi Cameron, Anthony Galvez, and Caleb Huber all qualify. I know they had a really great time. I think they were up against some tough competition at state. I know there's a lot of wrestling families here, so I know you know how the brackets looked. But they said it was a really good experience, really good opportunity, and they're only graduating one of those seniors, so they should be back in with a vengeance, is what I'm expecting. So you're gonna go into Hale. Okay, I was gonna introduce.
Can we give them a round of applause?
Before Greg comes up and we transition to Hale, I want to recognize the West Allis Central boys basketball team for winning against Bradford High School, take home the regional championship. Central will take on Westosha Central this Thursday, and the location has been announced. I just don't have it on me. It's somewhere in Kenosha.
Indian Trail.
Racing?
Indian Trail.
Indian Trails. Okay, so it's been moved. So we're very proud of the boys, and if you have a chance on Thursday, please come out. We're only 2 wins away from state.
Wow.
So you know, we'd love for that to happen. So just
Yep.
proud of our student athletes. So
For sure, 7 p.m.
Greg, you're up.
All right, here we go. First we'll talk about our couple kids who had 100 wins, 100 career wins we had a couple early in the season, and we had a couple later in the season as we got deeper in the season. So Brody Sardina, is Brody here? And Tristan. They're basically both juniors right now. Part of an exciting run we had this year, but they've been, dedicated wrestlers in our program for 3 years now. Coach Armando couldn't be here tonight. He's got the Greater Metro Conference Wrestling Coaches End of the Season meeting tonight. So I get to kind of work with Brian here on introducing our guys, but I know the staff's proud of these 2 guys. They work hard every day in practice. They're good role models for every kid in our program. I expect them to be leaders as they come forward in our program. So congratulations to these 2 guys for 100 wins.
You have the entire team to come on up for a picture, please. The entire team.
Yeah, they'll be coming up.
Oh, okay.
They'll be coming up too.
Okay.
You guys get to stand.
All right, we're gonna switch it up a little bit to cheerleaders now. You guys will come back. Girls, can you come on up? Coaches, come on over here. This group, if you've come to Hale and coming into our commons, they're practicing every day. They're working hard. It's incredible time and effort these young ladies put into what they've done this year. So I'll let Coach speak to it a little bit and then introduce her girls. Thank you.
Hi, guys. I'm Coach Gunther. I'm going to start off by introducing the rest of our coaching staff. So I have 2 amazing assistant coaches, Coach Allison and Coach Lizzie. Coach Lizzie is also a teacher in the district. She teaches 1st grade, and she comes straight from there to go coach our girls. We coach our girls 6 days a week. Yes, you heard that right. 6 days a week, 10 months out of the year, off of 1 coaching salary. Yes, you heard that right. Yes, I'm going to put the plug in. We don't do it for the money, but we do it because we love this sport. And our team this year has done an amazing job of being committed every day, showing up. And it's just amazing to see the unity and the bond. Not only do they show up every day for themselves, but every day they show up for their school. And thank you. If you heard from Pritzel, if you walked in that building and you asked Pritzel, who's been there for 25 years, he would tell you that our squad in the last 3 years has come further in the last 25 years than it ever has before. And these girls have put in the work to make that happen. So I'm very proud of them. So I will introduce them from my left to right. So we've got Lily Regath. We've got Cornisha Franklin, Maya Tullock, Audrina Dipple, Andrea Fitzgerald. We also have a sixth member who was unable to attend, Venetia. And we could not be more proud of the work that they put in. But as Central has mentioned, spacing, we are last on the docket. I mean, we do what we can. Thank God we have the commons and we secure that. And we've got our 20-foot ceilings to throw our stunts. We are very fortunate, but again, it's just about equity, which I know our district is very fond of. That's what I've got.
You said fourth?
All right, oh, this is perfect, yes, let's just hold this. There we go, oh, perfect. Okay, 1, 2, 3, thank you.
Dun, dun, dun.
And then
I was thinking something like that. One of our customers had a big blog. So right now, I'm to about 100 people in the building. It's like,
All right, I'll continue on with some of our success this winter. Before that, I would just want to, at Nathan Hale this year, we've had some really good success. As the end of the winter season comes, we've participated individually or team in 6 different WI state tournaments. And our Palms and Dance have taken part in the WACP state tournaments. So when you look at all that, we've had more success in our program than we've had in quite a few years, just up and down the line. Looking forward to more success come springtime with our spring sports. Right now, I'm going to talk about our gymnast. She couldn't be here tonight either, so I get to talk a little bit about Riley. Riley just got better throughout this year. She wasn't in our program last year. She's a sophomore at Nathan Hale right now. We have a co-op program between West South Central, Nathan Hale, and DSHA. They're our program. Cassie Westover is our head coach. She does a great job. She's been here probably about 10 years now, my whole time here, plus a few before that. So they just work to get better every day. As I was coming home from watching our wrestlers at state, I got a call saying Riley made state and all around in bars from the sectional at Arrowhead. Proud phone call when I get those calls and start planning my next weekend. So it's been a great run. Like I said, Riley took second in the bars at sectionals, fourth in the all around, qualified in both, finished middle of the pack in both those events at the state tournament. State tournament's crazy. We're usually a nice gym with the floor upstairs and uneven bars. You got 2 sets of everything in one floor at state. A lot of activity, a lot of action. As a sophomore getting there, highly beneficial for this young lady that had been in that process, being only sophomore. That's just going to help her down the line. But very proud of Riley. She did a great job up there, represented well. All right. Now the team that took us on quite a ride this year, Coach Brian, come on up with me and I'll go through some things and he'll catch where I don't go. Guys, come on up here. This squad. We'll start with the individual tournament. At regionals, they won the regional as a team, which qualified them for team sectional. At team sectional, they wrestled Wisconsin or Wauwatosa and then Wisconsin Lutheran to earn their trip to team state. But before team state, they had to go to individuals where they had qualified 9 individuals on the boys' side, which was the most in Division I, second most in the state tournament this year for state. So that qualification. And then with those guys, we also have Kaya. Kaya is actually our first female girls wrestling tournament participant. So that's really cool for her. And with the team state, that was our first time we made team state as a squad in our program, and they wrestled at the UW Fieldhouse on Friday night. So against a tough Kakana team, but man, they fared well. What I love about this group as the AD is they battled every day. And as AD, that's what I want our kids to do. Get better every day, battle every day. And that's what they did. So that's why I had to say, Coach, I'll let you say what you need to say and introduce our guys. Young lady too.
Yeah, thanks. You know, Greg,
Oh, this is Coach Brian. She's SP one of our assistant coaches.
thank you. Again, as Coach, or Greg had mentioned, thank you for the opportunity. I'm not going to ask for $1 million or anything else like that, but, you know, our program is only 4 years strong. As he mentioned, Armando Suarez Del Real, has been with the organization now for four seasons. Ultimately, you know, achieving this, as early on as he was able to, far exceeds expectations. And, there had been rumors going around. We do plan on remaining here as long as we are continued to be welcomed. Like anything, good programs are built with the athletes, and, you know, fundamentals within the classroom ultimately do come first. We are blessed and fortunate to also have quite a few different scholar athletes on our team, and we look to have those recognized as well, as we will be working on the submittal for that application as well within the WIAA. But to cut my soapbox short, to introduce the athletes that are here, it looks like we are missing one or two. Starting with 106 freshman Romeo Velvitia. He was also an individual state qualifier. At 113, we have Tristan Gregg, who's a junior, also individual state qualifier. At 120, Jack Islas. 126, Jeremiah Wade, who is a sophomore, also individual state qualifier. At 132, we have Evan Islas, sophomore, 132 individual state qualifier. At 138, we do not have Donovan Whiskey with us, but at 144, we have Tristan North. He was one of our 100 win athletes this season, also taking third at the individual state tournament. At 150, we do, Evan Bender, sophomore. 157, senior, Demetrius Gaines, also individual state qualifier. 165, we have freshman Michael Lee. 175, sophomore, Peyton Quadre. I learned that enunciation just recently. Apologize for that one. 190, we have individual state qualifier, also 100+ win wrestler, Jay Kruger. We'll miss you next year. As well as at 215, we have once again Brody Sardina, junior. He'll be joining us again next year. Individual qualifier, 100+ win wrestler. And then our other captain, Thomas Medley, senior, 100 career victories, and kind of the heart and soul of the team. Do not let me forget Kaya Krieger, who is again our lone individual girls qualifier. Looking to hopefully set the tone and the benchmark for next season up to come. With that being said, thank you for your time this afternoon, and that's our Nathan Hale squad.
I have to sit up with you guys.
Oh, right.
Thank you.
You have to be in front of you.
He's in the front.
Yeah, you're gonna have to go that way. It's not that long.
Here's Joe.
Check out everybody. Ready? One, maybe 1, 2, 3. One more picture. 1, 2, 3.
I think that's. No, we got Willie. Is here. We love Wilson.
All right, I'll continue on one more time here.
That's incredible.
Bunch of success at Hale this year, and don't want to leave out Wilson Shear. A couple weeks ago, I can't remember which game was it. The Pius non-conference game towards the end of the year. Wilson broke the 1,000 career point mark for his career at Nathan Hale. Wilson's been in the program since his freshman year. As you can tell, he's not the tallest guy in the place, but man, he can put the ball in the basket. In their regional game at Westosha, where they ended up losing, he ended up with 32 points.
Oh, wow.
Just to say, I mean, that's the kind of player he is, and that's what he brings every night, and that's why he's got the 1,000 points. He's only the fifth student athlete at Hale to surpass 1,000 points in their career. So, Wilson, congratulations.
So did your mom teach you your jump shot?
Ready, 1, 2, 3. Awesome, thank you. Moving on, ADAMM, Automotive Dealers Association, Megger, Milwaukee, conducted their annual Technicians of Tomorrow competition on Friday, February 28th at the Milwaukee Auto Show in downtown Milwaukee. Under the direction of auto teacher Mr. Hart, Alexander Lyles, and Jackson Hauser won the competition versus 7 other school teams, finalists from Southeast Wisconsin. They competed on the written test, hands-on skills, and ability to diagnose and repair problems on a vehicle within a specific time limit. Alexander and Jackson walked away with some awesome prizes, including a huge trophy, tools, and technical college scholarships. Nathan Hale team appreciates the opportunity to be mentored by certified technicians from Heiser Automotive and Coombs Auto Group over the past few months, building their knowledge and skills in preparation for this event. Are those young men here tonight? Not, we just recognize them. No? Okay. So we just want to recognize these gentlemen for their outstanding work. I know Mr. Lesser's in the back. I remember receiving a call. He was there that day. So thank you for being here, Mr. Lesser.
They're like on a live car. They take all these tests. Okay, like different things on balancing in the engine and this and that written, and then they actually have their car they've worked on for about 2 months, and it's transported down there, and they're all bugged. It's all bugged, so they have to attach all the equipment to it, do all the troubleshooting, get it started, get it going, and they are unbelievable what they learned from those 2 dealerships in those 2 months. So they rocked it and really walked away with some great prizes and great knowledge, great opportunity. People are saying, we'd love to hire you that fast. So
That's awesome.
So, yep.
Thanks, Matt. Thank you.
Bill Mitter Memorial Fundraiser. The Recreation and Community Services Department would like to thank the Bill Mitter Memorial Foundation members for their generous donation of $2,750 to our Champion for a Child Scholarship Fund. Bill Mitter is an alumnus of the district, as are his children. Bill's wife, Lisa, is an educator at FLW. Bill was actively involved in the recreation programs as a child, adult, and with his children. The rec team are pictured here. They had a great time bowling in this annual fundraiser. I also want to thank the West Allis Rotary Club on Thursday, March 6th. The Rec and Community Services Department was presented with a donation from the West Allis Rotary Club in the amount of $3,500. These funds are to help support the RAD Recreation Adult Day Program. The program is planning to use the funds for a community outing and new program supplies. We'd like to also thank and recognize Katie Lingering, Adaptive Recreation and Inclusion Specialist, for building a great relationship with the Rotary Club.
We had a special visit on Friday from Lieutenant Governor Rodriguez and State Representative Karen Kurtz. Visited the Recreation Center back in February. The WAM RCS Recreational Adult Day Program learned about self-advocacy participation, sent letters to state officials, including State Representative Karen Kurtz. On Friday, they were honored with a visit by Lieutenant Governor Sarah Rodriguez, along with State Representative Kurtz. The purpose of the visit was to meet community members that utilize Medicaid, for vital services that support and empower them as community members and individuals. They were given a tour of the recreation center and were able to see multi-generational programs during their visit. The tour concluded after meeting with participants in the RAD classroom. Participants were able to ask questions to the representatives, joining us that morning, and highlighting what makes them RAD. So thank you, Shelley, for submitting that particular request. Just a couple of, it's been a long report for me. So February 25th, I hosted The Voice at my office. We also had a special visit from Alderman Haas, who talked about leadership and thought it was a good time and opportunity to interact with a community leader. So we're trying to bring in community leaders as we end out the school year so they can have sort of a really deep one-on-one, as much as possible conversation. Instructional rounds at Wilson, Jefferson, Hoover, and Pershing Elementary School. February 28th, door decorating contest at West Milwaukee. February 27th, Rotary Club meeting. 27th, Peter Pan Jr. Awesome performance by our middle schoolers. March 3rd, DLVA competency and graduation standards. We had a meeting in my office to discuss next year's plans. March 4th, All City Orchestra concert. And March 5th through 7th, I attended the National Superintendent Conference in New Orleans, Louisiana. Tonight, our voice representative is no other than Devin Williams. Devin is a senior at West Allis Central. He's president of the National Honor Society and of the Black Student Union. He's a member of the Central Orchestra, where he plays the principal bass. Pitt Orchestra for musicals, jazz band, and varsity volleyball team. He's a leadership team member of Interact, Student Council, and the Hope Squad, and salutatorian for West Allis Central graduating class this year. So Devin, tell us what's going on at Central.
Hi guys.
Hey.
So coming up, we have, sorry, I wrote stuff down this time. We have a basketball game Thursday. I encourage you all to come. It's our sectionals, I think, right? Yeah. We also have our ACT next week Thursday. And also both of our orchestra classes made it to state for solo and ensemble. And recently we had our all city performances last week. Orchestra was Tuesday, band was Wednesday, and choir was Thursday.
Thank you, Devin. Thank you. I think that concludes the report, right?
Sure. Is there anyone else we need to recognize? Can't see. I mean, this is a bad problem to have. I mean, it's a good problem to have. They have so many great things happening in our schools that are being recognized statewide. So it's I'm happy to sit through those announcements every single time. All right, so move on to item 8, our public comments this evening. I believe there were a few people signed up. Yes. So for those who are new with public comments, you have 3 minutes to address the board. You will start by stating your name and your address. That's not a back and forth conversation, but if there's something that can be simply answered after your comments are concluded, we will do so. And if there's an official response required, we'll do so by the next regular Board of Education meeting. If there's anyone in the Zoom chat, there should be a link in the chat to sign up for addressing those comments. So we'll start with the first person to sign up, Caden Schaefer Rose.
My name is Caden Schaefer Rose. My address is 2545 South 77th Street. I'm here to address the board based on curriculum. I am a junior at West Allis Central High School. I just got back from a semester about a month ago. I served as a semester as a United States Senate page, one of 29 students picked from across the country to serve the United States Senate. Frankly, I've been quite bored in class. The curriculum that I experienced in Washington, D.C. was I had 35-minute class periods, and you had to get the same amount of curriculum in as you would at any other school. Except in those 35 minutes, when I was in DC, there's more curriculum being put into those 35 minutes than I come back here that are in my 50-minute classes at West Dallas Central. I kind of find it ridiculous that there's classes that are 50 minutes, but yet the teacher gives me 10 minutes of work and says there's not anything else to do. That's not something I think is okay, personally. I feel like we should be learning the full 50 minutes, not sitting in class. And frankly, there's students still on their phones, regardless of the phone policy. That's just not enforced at all. I've asked teachers what else I can do for work, but yeah, I'm still in class, not doing anything, sitting there with nothing to do, which I feel is unacceptable. I feel like I should be able to learn the full 50 minutes in each class period and not be given 5 to 10 minutes of work and be expected to just sit there for the rest of class. I don't know how you feel about that, but that's just something I feel is unacceptable. And I'm even in 4 AP classes, and I'll say, like, I came back and some of these classes were 2-3 weeks behind, and I started my school in DC started a day after West Dallas Central started high school, and yet we were still when I came back, they were still behind, and classes were 35 minutes when I was in DC. Understand, like, there's different curriculums established and different timeframes of when things are done, but especially with AP, there's kind of a set curriculum and stuff you need to get through. Yet I go into my AP calculus class second hour each day, and I feel like there's often 15-20 minutes left of class time where the lesson's over and it's like nothing to do. But yeah, why can't we move on to the next lesson, or why can't we do anything else? It's just bizarre to me that we don't get fulfill the full 50 minutes of time in class. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Next on the list, I apologize if I don't pronounce your name correctly. Sunny Nias Randall.
Hello, I am Sunny Nias Randall. My address is 2014 West 102nd Street, Los Alamos, Wisconsin 53227. So again, I'm here to boast about DV, Deeper Learning Virtual Academy. It's been a long day. I'm sorry. So I'm a proud school board member of the school, and I was truly inspired by the commercial that showcased what made our school so important and give reasons on why people should enroll. While we're a virtual school, you can see the passion and the enthusiasm and the school spirit that she displayed. That's what we're about. And I just want to recognize Dr. Smith because her leadership is exceptional, and it trickles down from our teachers to our students to our parents and our entire community. So I just want to showcase how well of a job she's doing. And with me being on the school board, I'm taking advantage of the CISA 6, or is it 9? CISA 6 sessions where I can establish a learning for this. Being on here, I have no clue about education. This is my first time in the school community, so I want to build myself so I can be more help to our school and our school district and our community. With that being said, I would like to invite one of you to one of our board meetings. Either one. Our next meeting is on Thursday, and you can get in touch with Dr. Smith for more details. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, that was the extent of people sign up for public comments, so I will close public comments at this time. And we'll move on to item 9, our board reports, starting with 9.1, a review of the board calendar. So today is March 10th, and we have a regular Board of Education meeting. And then we have a Student Services Workshop. Our next meeting is March 17th, where we have our another regular Board of Education meeting. And just as a reminder, that will be the last board meeting held at this location. After next week's meeting, we will be moving on to our new location at the Activities and Fitness Center, located at the former Lane facility. And so we'll make sure to put lots of signs downstairs if anyone comes to it, and ensure that we're communicating that out district-wide for anyone who would be interested. We will still be having a link for Zoom for those who are attending this meeting via Zoom, but the physical location of the meeting will be changing. Then April 14th, will be our next regular Board of Education meeting, and then we have a few workshops. One, financial stability and efficiency on proposed 25-26 budget, as well as the preliminary tax levy number 1. And then leadership and learning on the GVC and instruction. Next meeting will then be on April 28th, which is regular Board of Education meeting. And then we have our athletic strategic plan workshop. And just to note from the last meeting, we had an April 21st board workshop that has been canceled. So that April 21st will be an off date for us. All right, moving on to 9.2, our board committee reports. We have 2 this evening, starting with 9.2.1, college and career readiness. Ms. Kaiser.
Hi, so tonight we met at 5 o'clock. We talked about the community transition services that we provide here. Currently, our program runs out of Franklin Fieldhouse for those who qualify for services ages 18 to 21 who need vocational and occupational support. Currently, our attendance is increasing, plus there's increase in students with medical and mobility needs. So discussions and kind of planning for what comes next for housing. Do we upgrade Franklin Fieldhouse? Do we move into Madison? Do we move into Irving? Looking at just the options we have available or could consider at the time. And then tonight's workshop will show some more around the student services and the program. And that is all.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Kaiser. Anyone have any questions for the report Ms. Kaiser provided? Or any items to consider at future agendas? Seeing none, thank you very much, Ms. Kaiser. We'll move on to 9.2.2, communication, community relations. Ms. Deal.
All right, so our committee also met tonight at 5 o'clock. So first agenda item, we talked about graduation 2025. So a survey was sent out to Hale families and students about where they'd like graduation held this year. 83% of families and 85% of students prefer to keep graduation at Hale. This issue will be revisited next year with the completion of the updates to the Central Fieldhouse. And then our referendum communications plan. So communications and administration staff met with CG Schmidt last week to start developing a communications plan for the referendum. Plans before construction begins, each building will have signage and one-pagers with information for the community. And one-pagers will be created for each building with information about projects, timelines, costs, renderings, etc. This one-pager will be updated each month with information on the progress of the projects along with the budget updates. The district will be creating 3 videos between June and November with visual updates on the referendum projects. There will also be monthly updates in our monthly district newsletter that comes out on the 15th of each month. And there will be several specific projects that will be highlighted, including the field house at West Allis Central, the pool at West Milwaukee, and the Woods classroom at Hale. That's my report.
Thank you very much, Ms. Deal. Anyone have any questions regarding Ms. Deal's report? Or any items to be considered at future agendas? Seeing none, thank you very much, Ms. Deal. Move on to 9.3, board member reports of community events. Any community events board members attended they would like to report on? Ms. Kaiser?
Peter Pan Jr. was wonderful, and Peter Pan did fly, which was really cool to see. They did an amazing job. And then also, what did I write down also? Oh, I was able to make it to the All City Choir concert, which was lovely and wonderful. Just shout out to the teachers handling 736 something students, the majority being elementary. It was very well done.
Yes, it is quite a feat. Thank you very much, Ms. Kaiser. Ms. Deal?
So I volunteered for solo ensemble, was it last Saturday? So I just wanted to shout out actually, Mary Pat Michaels and all of she puts on it's phenomenal and it's a very complicated and comes up with schedules and it's all based on volunteers. It's all, you know, our music teachers are there. We have a lot of parents, you know, the same parents showing up and helping out. So I just want to thank all of those people. It's a great experience. It's a great experience for our kids. And I enjoy it just as an experience as, you know, being able to see all the talent in our district. I also was able to attend our All City Orchestra concert and the All City Band concert. And again, I think our district is just so lucky to just have such a great music program and just, all of our teachers, Mary Pat, just do such a great job. And our kids are just really fortunate to be able to, have those musical experiences so early in their development. So shout out to our music.
All right, very much.
I'd like to reiterate that I was at the band concert and also at the choral concert, and it's one of the reasons we have a good music department. It was just how they can get, especially like for band, pull maybe 10 people from the elementary to go over here to play and make a band out of 9 schools. That blows my mind, but it was very good. Even though we heard it tonight, I'd like to give a shout out to the Central cheerleaders. Yesterday on CBS 58 Sunday Morning News, they did a special on them. And today their noon news had a special on them. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Excellent. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Sickich. Anyone else want to report on events they attended? Mr. Burns?
I can't say anything unique to everyone else because I was also across the board at the arts with the solo and ensemble and then the orchestra and then the choir. And as everyone said, they're excellent. And it's great to see all the kids from youngest to oldest and how they are progressing across that spectrum. So it's always a good event.
All right. Thank you very much. I also want to report on events they attended. Mr. Becker.
I'm married to a few. Most of them are my kids involved, so I don't know, half credit or something. The band and choral concerts were great. The thing I noted, a couple of things. One is that I've never seen the field house as full as it was for the choral concert. That was kind of, it was a little, I was curious if we were pushing the capacity there for the fire codes. And I think it's great. It's a really show what kind of a leader Mary Pat Michaels is, because she's not only running the whole show, she's handing out programs at the door and finding seats for elderly folks. So it was really nice. Also made the Peter Pan, really impressive job singing up on the wires. They were swinging them around kind of fast. I don't know. It was making me a little bit nervous. I was thinking, I wonder what Dr. Robinson would think if he was watching this right now. What his blood pressure would look like. Made it to a couple of volleyball games for the FLW girls. Made it to the Friday night game at Central. Saw the boys win. Yeah, it's been a busy couple of weeks. Really enjoyable.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Mr. Becker. Anyone else have to report on events that they attended? Ms. Deal.
Sure. I just also want to add, I forgot, it is Arts Month. So our students do have stuff at the rec department and at the library. So those will be on display for the entire month. So if you can get around and go check it out, I think it'd be great. So. Okay.
Absolutely. Anything else from anyone? All right, as usual, I don't have a lot left to say. I was able to make the All City Orchestra, band and choral concerts. I was able to see them all. There was a really unique band song that I really liked to actually record. I don't usually try to record part of it to put on my page, but I did because they were using this piece of equipment, like it was like a can with stuff inside of it and a string. And I don't know exactly the name of it, so hope no one calls me on that, but I thought it was very unique how they used that in the song that they were doing about like a lightning storm. So I thought it was like supposed to be like thunder. So I really thought that was unique. Was at solo ensemble as well. And I also, as my son is one of the wrestlers who was participating in the state events, I was able to go to the state team tournament that was held this last weekend. And I just want to say that they have a really great group of young men that are participating in that sport, and it really, in the 4 years' time, to build it to where they're at is really impressive. So I know that they have a rivalry with Central. There's some wrestlers in Central that I know some wrestlers from Hale, they have to go up against, and they did in sectional. So I think that's something that we'll see continue as we move forward in the program. But it was great first for Hale winning regionals and winning sectionals. So it was a wonderful opportunity for them to participate in the tournament. All right, and I could say many other things, but I'll hold those, and there's nothing further for 9.4 from my perspective, so we'll move on to our consent agenda this evening. Starting with 10.1, approval of our minutes from our regular Board of Education meeting on February 24th. Employment's 10.2 are employment summary, and 10.3 are some money contracts. Ms. Kaiser.
In our supplemental contracts, it lists Dean Malachnik as head coach and Dean Malachnik as assistant. Is that a father-son deal or is that?
Father-son.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted the clarification.
I was gonna say, should we specify?
Any other questions on the consent agenda?
So
Does anyone need anything separated out? If not, I'd look for a motion.
Second. Move to approve. I'm new.
All right, we have a motion and a second, after I ask for a motion and a second. All right, any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, that passes. And move on for our action items this evening, starting 11.1, Technical Excellence Scholarship. Spraj and I believe Mr. Carr is here.
The podium signs, we don't have that table set up for now.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. We are here per usual in the spring to share with you an update on our Technical Excellence Scholarship nominees that we would like you to approve so they can move forward in receiving this generous gift for their technical studies moving forward. So just as a reminder, the qualifications for the technical scholarship is a senior student who's determined to possess the highest level of proficiency in technical education subjects. And we are able to, per our enrollment, nominate 3 students for both Nathan Hale and also West Allis Central. And they are all going into a variety of careers within the trades, from automotive and diesel tech to engineering to construction. And so Steve is going to, he knows the students personally, is going to read their names and add any other information he would like to add.
Thank you very much. One of the things that's important to understand is the students who are going to be recognized here have all committed to attending a technical college experience. It's important that we understand that this scholarship is dedicated expressly to students who are going to pursue a 2-year degree, which is kind of a unique opportunity for those students who actually earn this scholarship. I had an opportunity to speak to all of them who have been awarded this scholarship, and the expression on their face when they realize that over 2 years, this is going to pay for pretty much their whole experience. It's really a pretty impressive opportunity for them. So I'm going to read into the record the names of the students who we're going to recognize tonight. From Nathan Hale High School, Wyatt Hacker, who's going to attend Waukesha County Technical College and pursue a career in automotive. Sean McKee is going to go to Milwaukee Area Technical College and also pursue a career in automotive. Gabriel Wagner is going to attend Waukesha County Technical College and pursue engineering. We also have an alternate from Nathan Hale High School, Freeland Ramos Macias, who's planning to attend Milwaukee Area Technical College in construction trades. From West Allis Central High School, Tiana Long is going to attend Milwaukee Area Technical College and pursue a career in healthcare. Savannah Radaj is going to attend Milwaukee Area Technical College and pursue business and cosmetology. And Zoeli Vargas is going to Milwaukee Area Technical College and pursue a career in sonography. Our alternate from West Allis Central High School is Brooklyn Yang, and she's going to Milwaukee Area Technical College and pursue a career in early childhood education. So really an impressive group of seniors who have a clear vision of what their next step in life is going to be. And really pleased that we were able to recognize them. And your timing this year is perfect because we had to have the names in by today. So we got it all done just in time. So thank you. Any questions?
Questions from the board?
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So if there's no questions, I look for a motion.
Move to approve. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any last minute discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? All right, that passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, and then our last action item for this evening, 11.2, issue final non-renewal notice for teachers, Miss Marshall and I guess just Miss Marshall. Okay.
Good evening. Every year we come before the board in accordance with state statute 118.22. That after we have issued non-renewal, preliminary non-renewal notices. And after these individuals are afforded their appeal rights, that if necessary, we proceed with final non-renewal notices. And that's what we're asking you to approve tonight.
Questions from the board? If none, I look for a motion.
Move to approve.
Sorry. Moved and seconded. Any last minute discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? All right, that passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we're moving right into our workshop this evening, 12.1 student services. Unless there's a necessary time to set up for that or a few minutes, I think. Okay. All right, we'll take a quick hard 5-minute recess. Hard 5, synchronized swatches. Go. And we are back from our brief recess. So hand it over to Miss Sage and I guess Miss Barrage here and Miss Locke. Here for
the
our
whole crew,
the whole group of people.
We'll let you know.
So I'll let you, you go ahead and introduce everyone and then let's get moving.
Perfect. So we did do our round robin student services back in the fall, had that opportunity to kind of hear bits and pieces and ask a few questions about some things going on in student services. Decided that this year, this would be good timing to do some updates on some of the things that have been going on this school year. By popular demand from talking to the board after the round robin last time, we've honed it down to fewer topics and opportunities for questions. So the areas that we're going to be looking at tonight, we have Kristen Brownell, who is our lead elementary school counselor here, who is going to be talking about Second Step, our SEL program, and Sabers. And Corey Sack in the background if needed for Sabers as well. We have Andrea Arshesky here, who is our lead secondary counselor, and she will be talking about college credit options and the dual enrollment academy. Interesting timing with having Mr. Carr here to be able to do his presentation. And then rounding it out for the after the high school experience, an update that we're taking a look at for our community transition services is Ann Locke, our manager of inclusionary practices. So we'll start with the elementary going into the intermediate school and work our way up.
All right. Thank you for having us. My name is Kristen Brownell, and I'm here to update you on how our digital program is going at the elementary level. It's going very well, which is very encouraging because we had some apprehensive teachers going into it, but we've gotten a lot of positive feedback from those teachers. Some of that feedback includes it's helpful that they're teaching lessons in the classroom because as they see things play out with students that they're teaching skills for, they're able to stop, pause, recognize what they learned and how they can apply it in that moment. So that's just been really encouraging to hear that positive feedback with some of the nerves that started out. I think they acknowledge some of that apprehension and then we're able to recognize, having the lessons already scripted, the student handouts already prepped. It wasn't as much as they thought it would be. And it's really embedded nicely into what they're able to do during the day with their kids. Buildings are on track with their lessons, so they're provided a pacing guide at the start of the year, and that just gives guidance of we're on this week of the school year, you should be around this lesson. There is some flexibility built into that. because we know different things come up. Maybe they get behind a lesson or two. We have forward testing starting that changes schedules. So with that flexibility, they have some buffer time where they can catch up if they get a little bit behind, or if they're noticing their students still like struggling with a skill they learned about, they can take the time to like come back to it and do some more skill building, some more reflection on it, and get some more practice for that skill. Because SEL is now taught in the classroom, that has allowed our elementary counselors to have increased availability to provide targeted services to students with different supports and interventions. And we'll talk about how those supports and interventions are determined on the next slide. But some exciting stuff coming up for middle school. We are looking to pilot the middle school program this spring. So FLW is actually scheduled to start this week. They've chosen to do a 6th grade class during their advisory time, which is about 15 minutes. So lessons will be split up daily within that advisory time. And West Milwaukee is starting with a 7th grade classroom in that more traditional setting where they have more time in the classroom compared to the advisory. So I'm eager to get that feedback from those teachers of what that looks like broken into smaller increments versus having a longer period of time to complete the lesson. West Milwaukee starting after spring break, so we can also get feedback of having 1 to 2 lessons a week because FLW is starting this week versus having like 2 to 3 lessons a week and seeing how that goes. Just to compare the elementary program, they do 1 lesson a week with then the follow-up days in the week are supplemental activities like their brain builder game, a read aloud story that applies to the skill, skill building and practice just to get the kids involved. So we're trying to get feedback of having it spread out of 1 lesson a week to multiple lessons a week, just so we can make it the most functional as we can for our teachers, and logistics start to become different in middle school, like on a bigger scale. So we're hoping to get some feedback of what this experience is like from those intermediate teachers. Letters have been provided to the schools to send home to their families, so they're aware their student is part of that pilot for this spring. And we'll use that feedback to make a plan for the fall for the district. So moving on to our next slide. When I mentioned counselors have more time to provide targeted support and interventions, part of how we determine which students get those supports and interventions was through social emotional learning surveys. The reason we do this, part of what I love about this district is there's always been this focus on supporting the whole child. And what that means is, recognizing that academic learning and social development are intertwined. If a student isn't regulated, they're not learning. So I've always appreciated that this district recognizes that and gives our student services the ability to address those social and emotional needs in students. So how we got this data over the past 6 or 7 years started with Panorama. Panorama had social emotional surveys as well as well-being and belonging surveys that students took. And that helped us identify students who were high risk if they didn't feel connected in their building, or if they rated themselves high in areas of support for different social emotional needs like regulation or empathy or cooperation. So what that looked like was counselors determining who are the kids I'm going to check in with one-on-one just to see how things are going. Who are students I'm meeting with one-on-one to build different skills? Who are students I'm making small groups for? And what are we going to focus on? Who are families I need to connect with to get them connected to school-based therapy services or different community resources? So that's what some of those interventions have looked like over the years. However, moving forward, we're looking to change which survey we use for that social emotional data. We no longer have Panorama, and where we started with them was the kids took 2 different surveys. They were pretty lengthy. The SEL skills survey was 42 questions, and a separate well-being and belonging survey was 14 questions. So if you imagine doing that with a group of 3rd graders, it became interesting. We also got feedback from counselors, teachers, and students alike that a lot of the questions were very confusing, lengthy. The vocabulary wasn't developmentally appropriate, especially for our younger friends. There was a lot of stopping and pausing and explaining we had to do through that process. So some of the fidelity of the responses we got came into question of did they really understand what they were answering when they were on some of those questions. A con from Panorama was it was on a whole separate platform that teachers needed to log into. So separate from Google and Skyward and FastBridge, it was one more thing to log into. And where we started with Panorama, there was no framework for how buildings were communicating with families about the survey, what it was or what it was measuring, and what their students' results were. It was kind of up to the building itself. They had that autonomy. So I know some buildings communicated those things and some didn't. Same with, there was no streamlined expectations on how to present or process that data we were getting back from the surveys. So what we ended up with was a widespread of buildings who were looking at the data with their teachers and identifying strengths, identifying gaps, to buildings who weren't really using the data at all. So what we're looking to transition to is the SABRE survey. There's two components to the SABREs. The My SABREs is the student self-assessment. That's 20 questions. So it's much more concise. When I looked at the questions, they're very brief, they're very straightforward. There's no fancy language. So they're more just developmentally appropriate for our grades 2 through 10 who will be taking them. A huge pro is that SABREs is housed in FastBridge. So that's where the reading and math assessments are also housed. So they're all in one place. And they'll just be done in addition to those math and reading assessments come fall, winter, and spring. We're looking to pilot it in the spring. My mouth is getting really dry. So we're looking to pilot it across a diverse age range. We're going to pilot it in one of our elementary schools. We're going to pilot it at Walker with our 3rd graders. We're going to pilot our 7th graders at West Milwaukee, and we're going to pilot with our 10th graders at Central. And part of why those buildings were picked is because there's student services leadership in each of those buildings that can help support that process. And plans for rollout include communication with the families. So there's already letters ready to go explaining what the SABRE survey is and how it works. Gosh, thank you. And there will also be expectations for what buildings do with this data when they get it. So it's much more consistent between the schools of looking at this data and taking steps to strengthen universal practices, taking steps to strengthen our targeted supports for students. So a little bit more about the SABREs itself. Excuse me. The My SABREs is the student self-assessment component. And another pro is there's the SABREs, which is a teacher component. And the reason why that's really important is because sometimes students rate themselves very high on these assessments. It's not always an accurate reflection of what they have going on, especially say if they rate themselves very high, but they have like 15 behavior referrals at Skyward. That's some data that doesn't match up. So SABREs allows us to have an adult perspective from their classroom teacher to get us some more information to work from. The survey breaks down data into these 3 main areas that then drill down even further to give us clarity in the steps we're taking forward for interventions and supports with students. So what this means is if I'm a counselor looking at groups I need to make for kids, I'm going to have very different plans for kids who are high risk in social behaviors with externalizing behaviors like throwing chairs in their classroom versus students who are high risk in academic behaviors who maybe need an executive functioning group for organization and study skills for middle school. So that's just one example of how this data helps us get a clearer picture in mind of how we're going to support these kids. Like I mentioned on the slide before, there's lots of added benefits with them all being housed in FastBridge, the survey being more concise and age appropriate, and having that additional teacher perspective. We're also being very intentional about aligning what we do with this data with our EMLSS process. We already have our 2nd step curriculum at our universal level to teach skills, and we're looking to use this survey data within our targeted area of supports for kids. And our team is working on building an intervention menu for behaviors that gives some guidance and consistency between the buildings of this is some data you have, here's where you start with a student who needs support with, academic behavior in the classroom. Here's some things you can choose from. And we're going to make sure to differentiate those supports between our different levels of learning.
All right, can we pause?
Yeah.
This is a breaking
Yes.
in topic, right?
Questions
Yes.
for this area.
So, board member, I know Steele had some questions, so we'll ask questions about what we just heard.
So In regards to the savers. So I just want to clarify, is this information that's going to be shared with families?
Yes.
Okay, how are we going to communicate that? Because this is really sensitive material. And so what I'm concerned about is HIPAA. Because I understand it's part of FAST, but I'm wondering is who's going to be able to access this information? At what level? Because some staff are not good, they don't need to see this, right?
Right.
So I guess I'm just want to know exactly how are we going to make sure that this, remains, like we're communicating, like I don't want my child bringing home like, hey, this is her savers and look, she has all these, behaviors, because it could get in the wrong hands, right? So I want to make sure that we have a good plan about how we're communicating this to parents. And also like if we send something home and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, my kid's reporting this and like I haven't been forewarned, you know what I mean? So I guess if you could just kind of clarify how we're going to communicate this information and like respecting our students' privacies, but also recognizing what they're, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So students are rostered in the FastBridge system by rosters of what teacher they have. So the only people that have access to a student's information are the people that would directly work with that student, the school counselor, the principal, and then their classroom teacher. The information we treat the exact same way we treat the confidentiality of their academic data, their reading and math. So the reports are from FastBridge. It's all part of the suite that we already pay for. But it would all come in a report with that explanation the same way as our reading and math information comes.
Other questions? Ms. Carr?
So, well, one thing I'd like to say is that, Panorama did its job when it did its job. And I love that you actually, looked back and took feedback from teachers and whomever, and all those reasons decided to go with Sabre just because you felt that it was better. And I think that's great that we didn't just stay with the same old because we had it. I like that. Is the teacher portion optional or does the teacher automatically fill it out for every child?
The teacher portion will be optional based on our EMLSS process.
Okay.
So if a student is needing a targeted support, that means they need additional support outside of our universal layer. That's when we're going to be bringing the teacher in. So those 80% of students who are at that universal level and doing fine, we won't ask the teachers to fill out surveys for that 80% of kids. But those 20% of kids who need some more support, that's when we're going to look to get some more perspective from them in the classroom.
Okay. And then my second question was back on Second Step. So we know Second Step's been around for a long time. What iteration are we on right now? Like, is this a current?
Yes, so the digital program is new. It
Okay.
just started last year, so it's the most updated version of
Okay.
Second Step currently.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
While you're talking about second step though, can you explain, you said there was apprehension. Can you explain the differences between last year and this year? I know it, but I don't.
Yeah, of course. So as you know, like teachers have very full plates always. And so whenever there's something new brought to them to try to squeeze onto that plate, there's anxiety and apprehension there. Where we started with Second Step was with the physical kits, and it had the puppets and the posters, and some of those were dated for quite a while. And then we got the new kits, and then we saw this digital program where part of why they created it is it's updated information from the kits. It's streamlined information. I remember with the kits, I used to have to make my own slides that reflected what we were learning, because otherwise we were clicking into 12 different tabs, trying to get to the song and trying to get to the game and then trying to get to your story. And so Second Step got that feedback and they put it all into slides for you. So truly all the teachers have to do is have their lesson plan in front of them and have the slides up on the board and they click through. So it's much more streamlined, much more easier to access and work through.
And I think the shift Dr. Robinson is getting to is previously it was the student services staff that are separate from the classroom doing the SEL teaching. And what we were not seeing was that carryover from that teaching into the classroom. So by having the teachers actually be the ones that are providing it in their classroom, as she mentioned, is then they do the lesson for that week. And as the week unfolds and events come up, they're able to do real time, like going back and working on carrying over those skills so that it's not separate.
Any other questions? Mr. Burns?
Oh, can you guys tell everybody at home what EMLSS is?
Yes. Equity multi-layer student support.
We have a program that we're doing with that we're aligning to.
Yes.
What is
We're gonna be getting more into that. Like, I don't wanna get too far off topic here tonight.
So that's still coming, or it's
It's something that we're in the process of,
Refining.
refining. That's the word I'm looking for.
Making it a little bit more focused on. So the process it has two different lanes. It's the behavioral lane, it's the academic lane. And so what we're doing throughout, but I already started right now, is working on defining sort of like what our processes are and streamlining the district. For some reason, if you can go to one school and it's kind of consistent, and you go over here it's inconsistent. So we're trying to make sure that we've identified what's our way of doing it.
Okay.
What this does is it allows us to properly provide assistance to students prior to the special education. Like the goal of a successful process is to not have kids who go into special education. So what are we doing prior to that happening? That's what we're trying to hone in on and making sure that we have the right process to get.
So we're aligning to a process that's in flux because we're rebuilding it.
Well, we're aligning to, I mean, we had pieces, and if you kind of, just to bring the piece together, response to intervention, right? When there were tiered systems, we're broadening that with the EMLS, the multi level systems of support layers. So yes, we're broadening that, and what we're doing with second step and the interventions and savers is all, we're doing it combined with leadership and learning so that we're not separated.
That's fine. Thank you.
Sure.
One more question. Sure. We had, you were saying with the panorama that there were some schools that weren't using the data. With this shift to savers, is there a way to make sure that all of our schools are having that same conversation rather than skipping out?
Yes, part of what our team is going to be working on is, creating a protocol for a data dive where the principals are going through the same questions for each building, reflecting on strengths they see, reflecting on areas for improvement, and then making a plan of how am I bringing this back to my staff. So then they're sitting down with staff. Teachers are looking at results for their classroom. What are strengths they see in their classroom? What are rooms for areas of improvement in their classroom? How can that affect their tier one teaching they're doing with their kids? How does that reflect, routines and practices that can help address some of these skills? And then it gives them a chance to look at universal tier one practices through the school, how they can improve, and then how they can look at their targeted interventions and supports they're doing as well and make it better.
And then is that also communicated upwards so that the district wide can find some of the new
That's
things
something
that
we
they
probably come back to show you.
All right.
Yeah, so this kind of speaks to the alignment that the direction we're going to. You used the word influx. I wouldn't say influx, it's just a misalignment right now. And we're trying to get everything aligned. And this is not honestly anything new. Anybody that's been around knows this stuff is kind of dated. I mean, these systems have been in place. However, we just really have to make sure that we have a solid system as a district. The strategies are nothing new, but I will say this too. What she just spoke about is the fact that as a district in the last year and a half, we've become data rich. However, there's an issue with that. We're data illiterate. So we have as a district a challenge of making the data make sense to people. And that's the challenge that we're undertaking and while we're trying to align things, because we can produce all the reports we want. They don't know how to use them. The reports are just a sheet of paper with numbers on. So that's what we're trying to do at creating a process. Part of the Leadership Institute this summer, we're gonna have 4 days of training, 2 days POC, 2 days RTI. So it's going to transition into that. So we're going to create those processes as a district.
Thank you.
And I guess I would add, and in talking with Savers, as far as like some inconsistencies among buildings with Panorama previously, second step also there was some inconsistency there as well. And with the digital platform, Kristen, the principals and the student services staff are able to monitor like that the lessons are being given and at what stage they're at. So we actually are able to track that it's being done and with fidelity and consistency.
So moving from Panorama to Sabres, is there any crosswalk between the two so that the data that was collected for students in Panorama can be somehow imported into Sabres so you don't lose that information? Because right, if someone was doing this since they were in third grade and now they're eighth graders, that's a lot of data, right? And so now for moving forward for ninth and tenth, or eighth, ninth and tenth, they're going to be using Sabres. So is there a way to make that crosswalk so that data is still utilized for that student? So they're not just like, well, all we got is from now until whatever it ends in grade 10.
So Panorama won't do that directly with Sabres. But if the student services or the building had saved that data, I know like for us, like we printed those off or they're saved in the Google Drive, they could utilize those from prior years. But that would depend on the building and what they did with that data.
So we no longer have access to that data?
No,
Okay,
not through Panorama.
I understand.
Yes.
But we don't have, even though we paid for that initially, we didn't archive that, we didn't.
I tried to request it and they wouldn't give all of that to us. But like, for example, like over the years at Walker, like we have a folder for each class where their results were saved because we thought it was important to save them.
Huh.
So we do have that, but I can't guarantee that that's what all buildings did, unfortunately.
So to me, the data is super important, right? And so if you don't have it, right, you have somebody who's now starting from scratch, you have no comparator to if they've grown in that time frame from when they were in third grade. I understand this starts in second grade now, and it ends in 10th grade versus 12th. But like if we're doing this, and this is just going to be a general statement for moving from one software to another, before that change happens, we should have some sort of plan of how we can retain that data, ensure it's across all buildings, and that we have a plan that we can then connect the two. So that whatever happened in one, we can now translate to the other. So then now we're still moving forward, not full stop. Here's kind of our baseline now for that student.
Right.
And now we're moving forward from there, which might be helpful. But if you don't have that historical information, you don't know where they came from, where they should be going based on only what you have right here. And so for these types of things, especially, I find that to be a little bit concerning.
And the one area that it's primary with Panorama is with the students taking the surveys. There was other information housed in Panorama, but unfortunately, because Panorama was separate from our other platforms, in some cases, we had data we had to have people inputting into two areas. And so the majority, other than I believe the only thing would be the actual survey information, everything else that was housed in there was already housed somewhere else. So
It's
that
now
would
reflected in Wise Dash.
correct.
Our data from last year, I uploaded manually after each of those testing windows last year, so our last year's data is in WiseDash. So that
So is there a plan to crosswalk that?
it's all aligned to the Castle standards. So we're able to look back and see where we have academic behaviors, which is what Sabres reports on back to the academic behaviors. The language is a little bit different on Panorama, but we'll be able to go, oh, we were looking at academic behaviors, how students interacted with lesson plans, how they interacted with their organizational skills and things like that. So because there is that alignment with the Castle standards, we are able to do that with last year's data.
So we have last year's data for every building? Okay. So we have 1 year's, but that's it. We don't like, so if kid's a sophomore now and they start doing it when they were in third grade, we only have their freshman data.
The self-assessment.
Just the self-assessments, all of the rest where we kept attendance and behavior and everything. Reading intervention, that's also.
So I guess what I'm getting to mainly is that we are connecting these things as far as, since we're switching over to a very different system, it seems, as far as the number of questions that are being asked and how they're being asked.
Yeah.
Just so that we're not, all that work and effort and money that was spent on gathering and doing that information.
Yeah.
Isn't just completely kind of lost, and now we're starting something new. Because what if happens in Sabres, oh, it's great, and then 3 years later, oh, we don't like that one, we'll go somewhere else new. So I just want to make sure that we have a plan in place as we move forward with these things, and I'm not saying we shouldn't have changed or any of that stuff, or we shouldn't change in the future. But the data is the data, and you only have it for as long as you have it. So as long as we're keeping that information and storing it somewhere, and then making sure that we can say, historically, this is where the student was, this is where they are right now, and we can see that progress, because it's all about growth and all that sort of stuff, and these things that we're looking at to ensure that we're helping that student in all the ways that we can.
And that's actually one of the reasons that we decided to make the change, because previously we had multiple platforms. And so what we're attempting to do is, if we've already got the capacity to do these things in platforms we're already using, instead of like, well, we've got that, it has the capacity, but now we're using this other one instead, that we could be using the one that's already aligned with what we do. That's what we're trying to hone in on, to have fewer variety of different areas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ms. Carr.
Did we save money by doing this move? Yeah. Yeah, I thought so. Yeah. Okay.
As I
Point that out.
mentioned, it's a platform we already have the capacity that we have versus an alternative platform.
Right.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much. We can move on
Alright,
to the next part.
Next up is for the high school. I'm Andrea Archishevsky. I'm a counselor at West Isle Central High School, but also the secondary level lead counselor. And as Kristen was talking about, we're trying to be more proactive, and as a Wisconsin, like we follow the comprehensive school counseling model. So that means not just providing responsive services, but also providing the academic support, and then also looking at like some post-secondary planning and the career planning. And so what I'm going to talk about is the college and credit options. So years ago, the DPI had a program called Youth Options. And so the first two options here, the Start College Now and the Early College Credit Program, kind of branched. So the DPI reprogrammed or rebranded the youth options and separated it out into the Start College Now and the Early College Credit Program. And the main difference between those two is the Start College Now is for the Wisconsin technical colleges. So it's any of the Wisconsin technical colleges. So we could have students that if they really wanted to drive up to Oshkosh, they could go take some classes, but that's not very likely. So most of our students go to the METC. And then the Early College Credit Program, the ECCP, focuses on like primarily the 4-year colleges. So like the private schools, which is the YCU, and then the UW schools. And so students can choose to take classes in either program, but it has to be classes that aren't already offered in the district. So a student at Central can't say, oh, I want to go take welding at METC because we already have a welding class at Nathan Hale. So we would make arrangements with that student to go and take their classes at Hale. The difference is that if a student already took that welding class at Hale, and they're looking to progress and go further in their programming, then there would be some other options available. So like the programming has to follow what the student's career path is, but also again, not be something that is already offered in the district. And then the third option, this is something that's been around for a while, but the district has a new partnership with METC where we're really focusing on the dual enrollment academies. And so the dual enrollment academies focuses more on like specific areas. So METC has like scripted, and I do have copies for everyone at the end where you can look at some of the academy options. There's like scripted programs that METC has that's set up in their dual enrollment academies. And it's like specific classes. So like those students might want to take an IT, go into the IT academy, and then this would be available to students going into their senior year.
So they would spend most of their senior year at MATC, working on the credentials for that and actually getting the certificate or like licensure, depending on what the program is. And it would also align with the graduation requirements. So, which is another criteria piece. So if the student doesn't have their graduation requirements, then they're not going to be eligible to participate in these programs. So that's just kind of a quick overview of like the 3 different programs. If you go to the next slide, it's kind of like breaks down the differences. Some of it I've already covered. Some of the more specifics. So the Start College Now, again, is at the technical colleges, and it's only available for the fall and spring semesters. Whereas the ECCP is, again, the private or UW schools could be a fall, summer, or spring, depending on when the students apply. And I'll get to the application process momentarily. And then the Dual Enrollment Academy it's like all laid out. So it depends on what program a student goes into. So some students might be in the program for a whole year. Some might have like some summer classes that they have to take prior to going into their senior year in order to meet those prerequisites in order to be into that Dual Enrollment Academy. So Start College Now is just for grades 11 and 12, whereas the ECCP is for grades 9 through 12. It's not very likely that we have 9th or 10th graders joining into or signing up for an ECCP class, because they're like typically in 9th and 10th grade, they're still accessing the classes that we are offering at the high school level. And then the Dual Enrollment Academy is like strictly for the 12th graders. And I think, yeah, the same, then it just talks about how the courses can't be something comparable to what we already have in the district. And then, so both Start College Now and the ECCP is that like students can only take 1 to 2 courses per semester. And whereas the Dual Enrollment Academy is, again, for the whole year, it's like when they sign up to the program, they're taking the list of classes that are part of that program, so they can get that certification. And if the student doesn't complete their classes or their programming, then they will have to reimburse the district for the payments for the tuition. So the students are being held accountable for this. And so like one of the criteria is like looking at their attendance and like their transcripts, and again, making sure that they're on track and that they're good candidates for these programs. And all these programs offer both the high school and the college credit, which is that added bonus. So, and again, that's that part of that post-secondary planning that we really want our students to leave high school and really like be ready to like just engage in like what their next plan is. So either like, so some students, if they're getting their certificate through that Dual Enrollment Academy, they might like be able to jump right into the workforce or go into like an apprenticeship program. Or they can have like classes that are transferable to like whatever other like UW school or Marquette or like private schools or wherever they're transferring to. So again, like our goal is like we want our students to get the most out of high school, so that way when they go on to their next chapter of life, that they're successful and like contributing. And okay, so the next slide. So these are the specific majors or academies that that MATC is offering. And again, I have like sheets. So we have some students that like have selected some specific academies for next year. So I did print off like the sheets that those students are enrolled in, so you can see a sampling of what the courses are like, what the tuition is, and like the timelines. So again, this is just these are what the only like academies that MATC offers. So if a student, I'm just trying to find something that's not in there, but so I mean, like, so it's pretty well rounded. Like there's machining, and then there's also like it goes to like phlebotomy. So it's like so it kind of hits on a lot of different areas that students have interest in. So I mean, I don't really want to like read through all. Okay, so the next slide. So this is the application criteria, and it's like pretty for like the ECCP and the Start College Now. It's pretty similar. the big thing is for the students, like, is the deadline. So it's students really have to plan ahead. So we just for next fall already like turned in all of the applications just this like last week for March 1st. So it's like it's students who are like being proactive and planning ahead and like thinking about their future, where it's like, so they're already thinking about classes they want to take next fall, and they're doing it like, and they just started their second semester of this school year. And then like the same goes with so like February 1st. So for students that are taking the ECCP classes, they have to turn in their applications by February 1st if they want to take courses in the summer. And then students that want to take courses next spring have to turn those applications in by October 1st. And then the students will receive notification of their acceptance into the programs by either November 15th or May 15th, depending on when they're applying. Again, here's the criteria where students, they have to be on track for graduation. So even a 10th grader who, it's like, obviously they're not going to have all their graduation requirements completed already, but they're already on the right trajectory where they've taken like their correct English classes and their math, and they've taken health, and like so they're like taking the appropriate credits and like the appropriate timeline. So we can kind of gauge that they're on the right track. And they have to have taken enough credits or courses in that related career path. So like my example about the welding was, so it's like if a student already took welding, and then going into like the next level, like that's like sufficient, like that follows that pathway. And then the students can't have attendance issues. And that's a thing where like we stress a lot with our students, because like when they, especially like with like the MATC and the UW and like the college classes, like they can't miss more than like a class. And so that's a big paradigm shift for some students, where it's like you cannot miss a class, because if you miss a class, you're missing like so much of the curriculum that you will not pass a class. And then again, we remind them that if you do not pass the class, then you have to pay for the class. So that's again that accountability piece. And the students can't have a record of behavioral issues. And then the application materials. So I have on the next slide. So there's just an example of like, so each student for the Start College Now and the ECCP, they have to, I know it's not very clear.
They have handouts.
Oh, cool. Okay. So for the Start College Now and the ECCP, each student has to complete the district cover sheet. And on there, it indicates like check boxes where we have to indicate whether or not the student's on track for graduation. And then we include their transcript. We include a copy of their attendance report and their behavioral report. And then the student also has to indicate what their career pathway is, and then what courses they're interested in taking. So we make sure that these things align. I had a family ask me if their son could take curling. I said, well, that's somehow relevant to what your child is planning on doing with their future, perhaps, but like we don't just want to pay for like random elective classes. So it has to be something, again, relevant to what their goals are. And so the forms are pretty straightforward. And then the Start College Now is the one in the middle. And this is again for any of the technical tools. And it's pretty much the same information, except for then the student has to actually fill out what specific course they want to take and any alternate courses. So we have had students who signed up for a specific course, and then that course was full, so they weren't able to take it. So then they weren't able to sign up because they didn't have alternate courses added in there. So again, it's like that accountability piece where we're trying to like teach the students how to be responsible and like kind of anticipate situations. And then there's like signatures required on all of these from like the student and the parents and the counselors and the principals and and then there's I have the example of the UW ECCP form, but the Y2 also has their own form too. And it's just basically the same thing as the MATC or the WCTC one, where this like, again, the demographic information, what's the pathway, what are the courses, what are some alternate courses. So Okay, so the enrollment application process. I mean, some of this I've pretty much covered already. I think so for the dual enrollment, again, it's just for 12th graders. So we have students that are already applying to be in the dual enrollment or dual enrollment academy for next year. Because they've already decided, they already know, like, hey, I only need like 1 or 2 credits. And so rather than like, taking courses that I'm not as interested in, I want to like do this dual enrollment academy instead. So like they're already applying to do these academies for next year. So the process is a little bit backwards than what it's like opposite of where Start College Now and the ECCP program is. So instead of applying to us first, the students actually apply to like MATC first. So there's a link that they have to go in and complete this Google form, and then there's a separate counselor recommendation form that gets sent to the student services staff. And then MATC will determine, like, and then we send in the transcript and all the other appropriate information, and then MATC will determine if they think that the student's a good fit. And then they will come back to the district and with their recommendations. And then at that point, the district will determine whether or not this is something that we want to support or provide. And again, it has to be like the specific criteria and the specific courses. Okay, so then the parent awareness. So this is something that like we reach out to the parents and the students multiple times, like as we're coming up on the deadlines. Like we send communications home to families like a month or so prior, like, hey, this is an opportunity, like explaining the different programming, just so families know what they are. And then we send information to students through like their advisory, like social media, different emails. And then we like talk to teachers and ask teachers to kind of promote these things because again, we want our students to be successful. And then we send several reminders, like you have 1 more week to turn these in, and because it's a very strict deadline, so we want to make sure that if they really want this opportunity, like we're giving them the chance to turn the forms in. And then we also have the individual planning conferences for both the 9th and 11th graders. So even like, so for 9th graders, again, like not a lot of 9th graders are taking like the Start College Now or the ECCP classes. But it's still something that we talk about and like and promote for like as they are going into like junior, senior year, where it's like, hey, like again, we want you to have a plan, we want you to have goals, and we want high school to align with what your goals are. And like talking about some of these options that we have or that like is offered. And then the last point there is just that parents and students are also notified multiple times about like it's like their responsibility to pass the class. So if they don't pass the class, then they are going to have to reimburse for any tuition or fees paid. Oh, okay. So here's the data as far as like the ECCP is something, so it's showing kind of like, again, this is something that we've been like encouraging students to do. So it's like, as you can see, it's like kind of it's been growing. And then like the new one is the Dual Enrollment Academy. And so like the goal this year was to have 15 to 20 students apply to the Dual Enrollment Academy, and we actually had 15, so we hit our quota. So within that we had 4 students, or like, I guess you can see the data there. Like, so it's like, and again, it's like different students chose different pathways, and it's so we're happy that we have this relationship with MATC.
That's that section. If you have questions.
Questions from the board? Ms. Kaiser.
Excuse my ignorance, but I'm new to this as a freshman mom. When do they take these classes? Is it after school, during school, weekends? How's that work?
They do, we try to align it. So they actually would take the classes. So they would like look at each college's course catalog, and they would have to select a course based on like what their availability is. So some students will do it online. Because the students are also, and families are also responsible for their own transportation. So if a student's taking a class at UWM and they don't have transportation, then they might choose to do it online. And then, and this is usually why it's like more beneficial for 11th and 12th grade, because they have more access to like driving and transportation. So some students, if they are doing a class like at 3 p.m., they might, like, we would change their 8th hour to like the code where it's indicates that they're like taking a class at a college. So we would, so their day at the high school level will be shortened, and then they would go and take their class at like NSOE or wherever.
How does it, like, looking at our numbers, I don't know if anybody knows off the top of their head, how many of these kids are also doing theater or or sports? Or I'm worried about, like, does it get in the way of extracurriculars? Because some of the theater kids, it's year round. The sports kids, they might be doing multiple sports.
Yeah.
And so I'm worried about just the equity of it for our kids. Like, how does that fit in?
I think I was talking to a student recently about, because they were trying to like, oh, but I want to work and I want to, and it's like, because the college classes they have like a staggered schedule. So there's like more flexibility. It's not like a regular high school schedule where it's like, every day at the same. So, certainly we want to encourage the students to do everything that they're interested in. So it's like, if there's a class that they want and it doesn't align with that time frame, then maybe we look at like doing a summer class or something, or like try to like stagger it where it's like it would fit into their schedule. But yeah, we don't want to take opportunities away from students, but we also can't control what the college schedule is. So
right,
yeah, or maybe they will look at like an online option or something.
Other questions? Mr. Burns?
For the academy options that they have, is there a list of like kind of pathways that they have for the other courses like ECCP or SCN? Do they have like a pathway, or is it kind of a choose your own adventure?
It's choose your own adventure.
Okay.
Yeah, and so that's where it's like, so we have a lot of students that are interested in the CNA class. And I think because we have a lot of students that are interested in the health field, so it's like that's just kind of an entryway. So it's like a lot of students end up taking the CNA class. And even like, and again, we have a really great partnership with MATC, where the representative from MATC will come in, and even though it's a Start College Now class, she will still come in and help our students register for the class and make sure they have the appropriate paperwork. And so it all depends on what the student's interest is.
Yeah, and I mean, and I ask because some kids get so focused in on one thing like a CNA class, they may not look at doing something of like vet tech or laboratory technician or something else that's out there. So is there a bit of scaffolding besides just the conversation with
Yeah, I mean, like each school has they have like examples of classes. And like we have conversations with the students where, so another student I have who actually is in 10th grade, even though I said that it's rare, but like she already knows that she wants to like work in some kind of like radiology field. And so like she's taking like radiology classes at UWM. And so it's like through conversations with her, it's like, okay, like what area do you want to focus on? And so it's like her, like, so she and I went through the course catalog together and like picked out classes that made sense for her and what her plan is. And then even like, so the representative from MATC, she'll come in and like talk and like, we have like big meetings with our students where they'll come in and again, like we make announcements where it's like, here's these opportunities, come come listen to the representative, and she'll talk about UWM too, like, and she'll give them the UWM forms too, or like MSOE or whatever. So it's not like she's like, you can only go to MATC, but she'll go around to each student and the counselors are up there too, like having these conversations with students, again, trying to make sure that we're aligning them. Yeah, like, so it's like, and we've had some students who are like, oh, I want to do CNA. And it's like, well, no, you don't even like, you like in my conversations with you, you've never expressed any interest in, so it's like, don't do what your friends are doing, like do what you want to do. So.
You can go if you want. You sure? All right, anybody else? So one of the things that holding them accountable with charging them for the class. We do have a lot of low income students in the district, and once money's tied to something, that becomes more of like a threat, I guess. That's probably the wrong word, but
Barrier.
it is a barrier. There we go. It's a barrier.
Yeah.
It's also a barrier if we're talking about where they have to provide their own transport and that kind of stuff. Do we have grants or options so that we can be inclusive of our low income families so that, you know, for that transporting issue,
Yeah.
just overcoming that fear of if they don't pass, they'd be on the hook for that?
Yeah, so there is a transportation reimbursement form for ECCP, specifically for low income families. So that's something that we like as we are working with our students. Because it's like we work with our students as they're doing the application, so we have these conversations with them. So it's not like they're just doing it on their own. And like transportation is a big thing that comes up a lot. And so yeah, so there is like a reimbursement form. So and some students, it's like if they're like, I can't even pay for it up front, then it's like, okay, let's get creative, let's figure something out that, you know, like again, because like our role is to remove the obstacles, and that's why we're trying to like give them these opportunities in high school, so that way they can keep moving after high school. So yeah, so I mean, it's kind of more of a case by case situation.
But there are avenues to help them.
Yeah. Yeah, and like when we talk about like, okay, like we're not like holding it over them, like we're just more like I just want you to be aware, like it's like we just don't want students to be blindsided, like, hey, like why am I getting this bill? It's like, well, you know, these are conversations that we have, and, you know.
So I can also comment as we're increasing our numbers, we are exploring transportation options. Because our numbers have been so few in the past, it just hasn't been a need. So that is something that we're looking at to budget for next year. But the issue that we also have in meeting with MATC is the students have an option, so they may not all go to the same campus. So they may go to I think it's Franklin Oak Creek campus, and then because they have way more options than the one next door, for example.
Okay.
So it just depends on the program and where it's housed.
Right.
So that could be a little bit, that could complicate transportation as well, because you're not just going to one spot, you're going to multiple spots. So we're trying to work through that. But there's also, if he's listening tonight, we've already talked to Aaron about additional monies in the budget to support this for our students, where they're going at no cost. So.
Okay. That works for me. And then I also wanted to ask about the ECCP. The students have to apply to classes, or it'll only be supported if there are classes that aren't comparable in the district. But a class at ECCP would give them college credit, right?
Yeah.
So is any class at the high school comparable? Because then you won't get college credit at the high school.
I think like an AP Calc, because you can get like, so if the student's taking AP Calc AB, and they can potentially get that college credit by taking the AP test, doing well on the AP test, then they could get the college credit. So like, I mean, I think that's an example.
Right, I guess your example that you used was welding, so I was concerned, like, because a welding class in high school versus a welding class at college is going to be different, and then having that as part of your transcript, it's going to be able to, it's carrying credits for you if that's a career you're.
And I don't know if it's because there are different levels with welding. So I mean, if we offer the first level of welding and it's also offered, I think it's the same course. I don't think it's any different. It would lead to the license to be a licensed welder.
It would count.
Yes.
In other words.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So that would be an example of someone we wouldn't necessarily approve to take it at an MTC because we also offer it here.
And accounts.
Yeah.
Okay. And that would be kind of that piece where I would just be wanting to pay attention if it's something that doesn't count them.
Sure,
well,
absolutely.
And then there's, similar classes, but one gets credit, one doesn't. Like, what do we do in that case? And has that come up?
I haven't experienced that. Yeah, I don't know, I mean. Like, with that, so if they can get it, like college credit. See, it's the.
And I hear what the question is, very, very rarely do we have. Built in some of those norms, there's a box, we have a comparable course. Comparable courses would be, for example, calculus. Taking 80% of the class has been similar in what we offer, what they offer, then the early college credit program just says can't give credit. Now they can take it, you know, if they want to get the college credit, they can take it there, but they're on the hook for that part of the information. But very rarely do we have a situation where a student wants to, you know, transport themselves or take an online course for something we already know. So
That's good to know. Okay.
Good,
Thank you. Thank you.
Very, very rare.
Are you
Yeah.
sure?
Yeah.
Got any more?
I mean, I
Sure?
will.
I see.
Raise my hand again.
Quick question. So on Dual Enrollment Academy, has culinary arts. We just spent $500,000 on a kitchen at Docky. So I'm just wondering what would be sending our kids for? Do we not have the comparable courses? And if we have this great kitchen, then what do we need to do? Because I don't want to, you know, why are we doing enroll kids when we have this facility that we
Yeah.
put all this money in?
I think, and that would be similar to the welding, where it's if the student hasn't satisfied all of the classes that, like, if they haven't taken the principles and then advanced principles of culinary arts, then like we would
Yeah, I
encourage them to
just-
take it within the district prior to the thing. And not, we would, like, as a counselor, I would say, no, you can't take it, but I would say like, oh, maybe try this first to see if it's something you're really interested in before you jump into this, you know. And then you can go further.
In the advanced culinary arts course that's taught over at Docky does have college credit attached.
Okay. Okay. I just want to make sure we
For sure.
put money into that. If then we should be developing that program here.
Kid wouldn't be able to do it at that.
Yeah, got it.
They can slide that into the culinary experience of ATC with credit.
With credit, okay.
That.
All right.
Yeah, right now.
All your questions?
The last part of the night, CTS updates. Just a brief update, I promise. So just a brief overview for those of you who aren't familiar with the CTS program. So the CTS program, so students who receive special education services can receive those services through the school year in which they turn 21. The vast majority of our students finish in 4, but there are a small section of our students who continue on to access services, those like usually 3 additional years, because they need additional support and resources to make that successful transition to adulthood. So the CTS program focuses on like the daily living skills, vocational skills, and really the interfacing with community resources. So that's the purpose of those, like beyond like the 4 years of high school programming for students who are receiving services who continue on. That's the purpose of the program. And that, if you can run in the slides, next one, yep. So that really aligns with the mission of the program. So really what CTS is designed to do is provide opportunities to build like daily living skills, to interface with communities, to build their vocational skills, to interface with DVR, to do all of those things, so that when they leave our services at 21, they can successfully transition into the adult world. So that's the purpose of the CTS program. Currently, our program is housed at the Franklin Fieldhouse. Some of you have been to our Thanksgiving dinner. Some of you have participated in mock interviews. So that's kind of the caliber of services they provide there. So just to give a little history of the program. So back in 1996, that's when the program, it was in the high schools and then left the high schools. The rationale behind that was if you are an 18 to 21-year-old, your non-disabled peer group is no longer in high school. So now your peers are at work. They're out in the community doing things. So your friends and your peers really aren't in high school anymore. So that was the rationale to move out of the high schools. So then really in 2000, they started the community-based transition program. It was at the Irving Fieldhouse, so the lower level of Irving Elementary, not connected in any way with the elementary, but that's the space they access. So that's where they did the services out of. That space was chosen for accessibility purposes, and if you know the field house there, it has like a fully functioning kitchen. So back in 2016, the program moved to the Franklin Field House. They're kind of starting to even outgrow that Irving Field House space. You've been down there, it's like just a large opening, but not too much space as the numbers went up. So at the field house, they continued programming. They use the multi-purpose room, so that's the place where we hold a lot of our large events. And they use one of the classrooms off to the side of it for their vocational development and things like that. The program continued to grow, and then in 2021, we actually added a second teacher to it. So many of you may remember this. It's like Jackie Jacoby's program. She ran that for eons and eons and eons. And then Allie Swenson joined her in 2021. And now it's Allie Swenson and Lisa Griffiths, who is an alumni of district. So she's kind of come back to work with us. And then, as I said, we continue to grow in our services and our participants. So if you look forward for the next 3 years, you can kind of see how this number is growing. So when it says participants aging out, those are the ones that we're sending off to adulthood. They are 21, they've exhausted services, they're moving on. And then you can see the new ones that we're welcoming in. So this year we have 23 participants. Next year, we're scheduled to have 32. So there we're starting to grow. And then we projected forward to the next 2 years. We're growing, we go from 32 participants to 41, and then the 52. And if you've been in the field house space, 52 adults is crowded, no matter how creative we are. So that's where we're looking forward to figure out, okay, we are projected to grow, and I wouldn't anticipate that slowing back at all. So we're looking for programming or place to host programming for the long term.
And I guess I would add into there as not, it's not strictly just the numbers, it's the needs of our students as well, particularly in the areas of mobility and medical needs.
Okay. Yeah, so we're seeing more of our students have pretty complex medical needs and mobility needs. So if you've ever been at the Franklin Fieldhouse, the foyer there in front there where they have the lift, picture now like 4 full power chairs waiting to get in, especially in winter. That's just kind of like a very simplistic look at that, but that's the backup that we're anticipating seeing from the needs of the participants who are projected to come and join the programming. So like I said, we're on the lookout for new programming options, space to hold that. And like Laura was saying, we're looking for a space that's fully ADA accessible. Again, because we're seeing those complex mobility needs, we don't anticipate that changing anytime soon. We're looking for a full kitchen at the field house. We've got that huge stove and everything where they do their daily living skills. So they do meal prep and do all of those things there. And then classroom space for our DVR and our job development. So that's kind of like the vocational space where we do that instruction piece from. So it's kind of just a brief update on community transition service programs, just to let all of you know what the program is if you're not familiar with it, and the rate at which it's growing and the participants that we're anticipating serving. Any questions about it?
Before we ask any questions, I just want to also tell you why we kind of brought this particular conversation up. We are really concerned about outgrowing that space. Okay. And so we are looking at how much does it take to make it ADA compliant, how any upgrades we could possibly make to the Franklin Fieldhouse, looking at costs. And then looking at other facilities that we own, seeing is it more cost effective to move it to Madison at the bottom top floor or not. So we're just trying to figure out how do we use our current spaces that we have and make it a better environment for our students. And so the reason we're bringing this in because we felt like we needed to just kind of bring up the conversation slightly by reintroducing the program and reminding you of the program. These are district kids, young adults, I should say. And then we have to service these kids according to their IEPs. So this is not an option. You're required by law to service this.
Am I correct in assuming that probably with the increased expected, we'll probably see another full-time teacher come on? What's your ratio generally?
Yeah, when we're looking at 52 participants in the program, most likely, yes, we'd be looking at an additional teacher for that.
Yeah.
We try to keep those caseloads around 12.
Yeah, do you have EAs?
We do,
Okay.
yeah.
Mr. Becker.
Since we're going to meet with some legislators on Wednesday, just want to make sure my questions are all lined up. I know we're around 33 or 34 cents on a dollar for special education reimbursement. It's the same pool of money that goes into this program. Okay.
Additional questions? So we're evaluating spaces right now, and I presume we'll hear back as far as what those evaluations have yielded and a recommendation for what we think the best plan moving forward. That's correct. Any other questions from the board? About anything that we heard about? If not, thank you so much for coming and talking. Appreciate it. Appreciate all the info. And I would look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? We're adjourned. Thanks very much, everyone.